San Sebastian 1911 is the tournament which launched Capablanca into international chess. Before, he was known in New York as a great player, a master level player, but this win in this tournament, where there were all the top chess players apart Lasker, and Lasker had the right excuse of going to be married, so that's why he couldn't participate, shows that Capablanca was the best. The book was written by a player of that period, Mises, that wrote 2 editions. Robert Irons got that book, probably put it in algebraic, checked with the latest version of Stockfish, and did all the historical work, because many of the games that we find here have been commented or annotated also by other players of that period. So the author did a great job at historical level. Inside the book you can find all the games and especially practically the table of the tournament. Yes, that we can find it here. Sorry, here we go. This is the table of the tournament. As you can see, it was a big tournament, 15 rounds. It was definitely hard. So obviously 14 rounds, sorry. But here you can see the names, right? There is Rubinstein, Marshall, Tarrasch, Schletter, that I have a book on him, Nintsovich, famous for his books like My System and Chess Practice. I mean, they are all here, right? And inside the book you can also find pictures of the players, in that period, like here. Here you can see a picture of a young Capablanca. I would like to show you from time to time some of the games. I will start with game number 1, which is between Capablanca and Bernstein. Bernstein had some kind of opinion that Capablanca shouldn't allow to play because he wasn't good. Well, you will see in this game that he was good and he destroyed Bernstein. The interesting thing again, however, is that the author of the book, this new author, Mr. Irons, has made an introduction to each game, giving you a little history of the players, and he also collected the comments to this game by a lot of other people. Like there is a comment even by Lasker that obviously wasn't there, but he republished the game for probably another magazine of the time period. And here it says, Dr. Lasker had this to say about the game. The combination that Capablanca made in his first victory at San Sebastian against Dr. Bernstein has been greatly underrated. The critics did not do what I consider to be their duty. Because, you see, this is the problem. In the time, they didn't have an engine. So you needed to analyze the game, right? But in order to analyze the game correctly, you need to be a good player. And it's not easy, okay? Without investigation, they assumed that Dr. Bernstein had made the best move, and since he lost easily, that the combination was a superficial one. In that way, they failed to do justice to its profundity. In fact, the combination has many branches. Dr. Bernstein selected a weak defense which gave Capablanca no opportunity of continuing his game in the brilliant style that he must have planned, and it is therefore plainly the office of a critic to resurrect Capablanca idea which through the fault of his opponent has failed to come to maturity. So this is also the problem. You see a game, you see a combination, you see that this guy won, but where did he win and why? So that's what we are going to do here today. The game will be long, I'm sorry to tell you, it's the truth. Probably I will break maybe the video in 2 parts if needed, but I think you need to watch all the analysis made also by Lasker, and there is of course the analysis by Stockfish, because in this way we actually see what went through and what the people miss of that time period. So Capablanca was white and Bernstein was black. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6, castle, bishop e7, knight c3, d6. This is an interesting move, right? Because it closes this inside. But of course, probably there is nothing else to support this pawn, because this is going down, right? And now, in fact, there is bishop take c6. And here it says equality, okay? Of course, it was playable also something different. Here in the book he writes it was playable d4, e takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop d7, bishop e2, castle, bishop e3, and here it says is slightly better for white. I don't know honestly on what is based this evaluation. Maybe because this is kind of a little trap, maybe because he has more active pieces, but keep in mind this slightly better for white is definitely not a victory for white, it's just an evaluation that is quite temporary. Okay, so let me return back. Okay, we were in this position and white took on c6. Now black continue with b takes c6, and now there is d4, e takes d4, and here it gives once more it's slightly better for white. Now there is a big comment by the Russian master Chigorin, no, that says, and I'm reading you these comments for a simple reason. Part, okay, I'm reviewing the book. Part, you know, if you care and if you want to watch all the game, you have it. Here you have it. Here it says also possible is Chigorin knight d7, but after d takes c5, d takes c5, black has a development and pawn configuration which are known to inviting. And this comment was made by Reinfeldt, that was a famous writer, chess writer in the 1940s, 50s, maybe 60s, and you can still find this book. So what does it mean as pawn configuration? The double pawn here is isolated. This pawn is isolated. So these are obviously some disadvantages because they will be a target for white. But what it says here is this gives away considerable ground in the center, and white's pieces can utilize this to form a kingside attack. He said, probably relative to this move, knight d7, yeah. Chigorin always played in such positions the center supporting move, knight d7. And here it says black pawn's formation, broken pawn formation is fully compensated by his freedom of movement and the two bishops. So he has the bishop pair. Honestly, the advantage for black in this position is that he has already an open file for this rook, okay? The importance of possessing a pawn on e5 is that it limits the action of white's minor pieces. for example, the knight f3 cannot reach f5 via d4, okay, as it is usual in the actual game. And this comment was written by Golombek, that was another writer of that period. Here it says also, Stockfish agrees with Reinfield that the strong point defense is better for white. Okay, and here it gives a long variation by Stockfish. With that said, after this, he takes c5, he says knight takes d5. He would prefer to, once he takes, to play this, strangely, if I got it right. Let's see, knight takes e5. This is the Stockfish variation, okay? Let's see what happens. Queen takes d8 and bishop takes d8, and here it says white is better. The modern master is more likely to capture as in the game, as it allows for more counterplay when holding the strong point on e5. And here it gives another little variation by Stockfish. Again, it's an interesting endgame. I think what we can actually learn from games like this sometimes is also to play. For example, you could play this position against a sparring partner or an engine, obviously not set at the maximum level, so you learn to use the bishop pair, you learn the disadvantages of this kind of pawn formation. And now let me return back. So we were in this position, white played the d4, and we saw what happens if knight d7 is played. Honestly, sorry if I can criticize the book, here already I think you should have a diagram, because when there are a lot of variations, it makes it easier to return to the position that you were starting to the analysis, okay? I'm not saying that they didn't put diagrams, because obviously they put them, as you can see here, but what I'm saying is that when you have a big analysis like this, okay, here I need a diagram, okay, because that's where I will return the position to, so it's a little easier for me, also as a reader, to tell you the truth, okay? So this is just my opinion, please don't get it wrong. E takes d4, now knight takes d4, bishop d7, defending this that was attack, bishop g5, castle, rook e1, h6, bishop h4, and here black plays knight h7, that is considered a dubious move. Now the problem is, in my opinion, if you give an evaluation of a move like knight h7 bad, let's say, you need to tell me which one was good. So what should have played black in this position? Maybe this? I don't know. But as you can see, this is important. You cannot put an evaluation to a move without telling me why it's bad. Okay, so knight h7, and honestly, this bishop is kind of bad. So I don't know why, now that white exchanges it, I don't know if it's really bad for black, okay? Bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, queen d3, and now we have rook a b8. Dr. Lasker points out that the game has followed the general layout of one of his 1909 match games against Janowski, until now, when instead that game continued with rook f e8, to clear the f8 square for the knight. Now, you must understand also one thing that is very important. we are in the 1900. Do you know that it was difficult to have the games, the latest games, and also we are 2 years later. Maybe it was difficult for some chess fan to know the games of 1909. While today we have all the games immediately. In that time it wasn't like that. So that's interesting. However, is it possible that Bernstein knew that game because he was a chess professional, and so he found this novelty? That is possible, okay? By the way, on this move there is a stockfish variation, but honestly I will not put because it doesn't really use that idea of knight f8. But if you buy the book, you can watch it by yourself, okay? So b3, knight g5, so totally different idea from Lasker, rook a d1. Tarrasch suggests f4 instead of rook a d1, to which Stockfish agrees, showing the following line: f4, knight e6, knight f5, queen d8 and knight e2, with a slight advantage for white. Okay, I return back. Let's see, rook a d1, that was the move played in the game. Black continues with queen e5. This is played because if now white plays queen a6, black can play queen c5. But there is also a more evil purpose in mind. This is a comment by Golombek, that obviously it's to trap a queen that goes to attack on this side probably. But let's see what he can do, okay? So after queen e5, queen e3, this is obviously threatening this. Knight e6, blocking that and attacking this one. Knight c e2, obviously nobody wants to lose the outpost, the d4 square, because it's a central square, and in the central square the pieces are more active, right? And here black plays queen a5. Now queen a5, it's probably played to attack this, but keep in mind that if you attack that, you are bringing the queen out of the game. So I don't know how good it is. Let's see what it says here. While the queen side is black's area of interest, capturing on a2 with a queen is dangerous as long as the white rooks are connected. Okay, so if he captures right away, play rook a1, and then he goes on the 7th. When a rook goes on the 7, it becomes a problem. Let's see what white played. White played knight f5. White begins to form the base of a combination to upset the adversary's design. Black cannot play queen takes a2. Let's see why. So here it says he cannot play queen takes a2. Because then would come queen c3, so it protects this pawn that was hanging, threatening to win the queen and forcing black, because obviously threatened to play rook a1 and the queen cannot escape, forcing black to play queen a3 or queen a6. If queen a6, the following is one of the many variations. I don't know if this variation is made by Stockfish, okay? So keep that in mind. After queen a6, he continues with knight f4, and he cannot take. Why he cannot take? Because if he takes on f4, there is queen takes g7, checkmate. Okay, knight f4, f6 to block the queen from giving checkmate. Now he could take, so what does white do? He plays queen g3. Again, you take, black die, okay? And here it follows with g5, to which there is knight g6 and rook f7. And now there is, let's see, knight takes h6, king g7, knight takes f7, and king takes g6. Obviously, this knight is not going to escape, so he is dead. You need to decide where to throw it. Here it makes knight takes d6, c takes d6, and rook takes d6, to which follow rook b7 and e5, and white should win. This is written Capablanca 2, so probably it was analyzed by Capablanca. However, it says that there is a move that is not correct. The knight takes h6, and it was better to play queen h3, but it doesn't give the line with that. So that's all we have here. Now let's go back to the position, because there is another long variation after the next move. Okay. Sorry guys, I realize that it's 22 minutes this video, and I don't want to go back to that variation. I want to make another video, because in this way, if one doesn't have enough time in one day, he has only 20 minutes, then another day can see the rest. Okay? Thank you.